Hey there. So here we are at 1.4. We're going to take a look at the rhetorical situation again. This is introducing something called the rhetorical triangle. I'm going to introduce it to you in the light of the Gehrig speech, but it's actually, you're going to analyze a couple other texts in the process. So we're going on to some different readings. So let me bump over to my slideshow again, and I'll present. And here we are looking at the rhetorical triangle. Again, this is something created by Aristotle. Aristotle did this somewhere during his lifetime, but he lived from 384 to 322 BC. And what he said is that he determined that all text, visual text, people speaking to each other, they all are an interaction of three things: the audience, the speaker, and the subject. And again, this is a major framework for this course, so that's why I'm going over it. The audience, speaker, subject interrelationship goes like this. You have a speaker. The speaker on top, that could be whoever's doing it. Could be a politician, an artist, a salesperson, an author, a teacher. Obviously, with the Lou Gehrig speech, we're looking at the athlete, whoever's actually doing the talking. That's not so complicated. The audience, that was where it gets interesting. It's whoever listens or views or reads the text, it's whoever interacts with it. And there's usually an intended audience, and then there's sometimes a secondary or even an unintended audience. And that's a great example here. He meant to speak to the fans in the stands or his teammates. That's what Lou Gehrig was trying to do. He didn't realize, or I don't think really thought about, the fact that he'd be on newsreels and it would become a national phenomenon in the 30s and 40s. He died only a couple of years later. And that actually has become one of the most famous speeches in the history of baseball. They played at Cooperstown. It's a big part of the whole legacy of that disease, and the ALS people fighting ALS have also taken on the courage of his fight, as well as the athletes. And in fact, at his 75th anniversary, athletes did a reading of his speech. Now, the subject is different from the purpose. Now, the purpose, remember, was him trying to say thank you to his teammates and don't feel sorry for me. I'm going to be okay. I'm looking positive. Here it is. He's saying the topic is, I'm going to tell you my illness and I'm going to tell you how lucky I am. That's what he's here to do. Don't pity me. I had it good. That's purpose. Okay. So the difference between subject and the purpose, it's about his retirement and his illness. That's the subject, not the purpose. But when you interact, the speaker, the audience, and the subject, these three things interacting create what's called the Aristotelian triangle or the rhetorical triangle. Now, here's what you're going to do. Let's go over to the book. And I jumped ahead. And this is another paragraph I want you to read. It's the same thing that I just talked to you about, just another way of looking at it. So I'm going to hold you responsible for this text. And then I'm going to ask you to read this particular article, which I thought was really, really well done. And it appeared in the Columbus Dispatch, which is out in Ohio. And she talks about, she observes hijab and about some of the messages and the questions she was getting as someone who is displaying their cultural heritage so obviously, and the number of prejudices and misconceptions she got into. So read it. It's really interesting. And then I'm going to ask you to go over to this thing, and you're going to do a rhetorical analysis. You're going to tell me who is the speaker, and then you're going to give me the context based on what you read of what she's saying, and then give me the subject, specifically the subject, the intended audience, and then the purpose. So I'm going to ask you to separate subject from purpose. That's a little bit different. The subject is about one thing. Why is she talking about that subject is the other thing. So take a little time with that and do it. Then just move down a little bit, and there's a neat little visual text here by Frida Kahlo. And it's a visual, we say visual text because it sounds all English teachery. It's painting. And Frida Kahlo, she's a neat artist. And she is someone who came from Mexico to America. Her husband got some cool artist work doing murals during the New Deal under the Roosevelt administration, and that brought her to America, and she became quite a prominent artist in her own right, and she had a lot to say about in this painting, and it's entitled Self-Portrait on the Borderline Between Mexico and the United States. So take a look at this, read what's around it. It's not a heck of a lot of information, and I'm going to ask you to cope with this question. If her purpose is to contrast a culture more attuned with natural forces, with an industrialized and dehumanized one, who is her audience? There's a lot of right answers here. Is the audience the immigrants coming in with her or fellow immigrants? Is the audience the American public? Is the audience political leadership? Is it something I haven't mentioned here? Is the audience in the future? What is her audience? And then based on what you see here in this image, tell me why you say, I think her audience, or I believe, don't say I think. Say her audience is this. Don't say I believe, don't say I think. I can't believe I just said that. I'm so sorry I said it. Oh, the clump, I'm so sorry. Say her audience is thus and such because you can see in her painting, blah, blah, blah. And look at the images she uses and how she uses them and tell me who you think her audience is, but say it declaratively, okay? It's not a lot, just need a couple few sentences, put it right in here. If you want to know what the rubric is, the rubric's right here. You can click on the rubric, it's right there. And then the only thing that'll be up there once this gets assigned is this video, which you know will get uploaded to YouTube. Hope that helps. Thanks for watching. Good luck.